You're going to lose people you never thought you would. You don't want to push yourself outside your comfort zone a lot.
Right.
And I had to get over that point where I'm realizing, okay, we got to try something new. I may miss the first 20 shots. I ain't never felt that kind of hurt from nobody at 17 years old. And when you take yourself out of the moment and know that I've done everything I can to prepare, now let me help him, let me help him, let me do all, then it becomes bigger than you. And now that feels even greater.
Guys, welcome back to Failure. A place where, as they say, success has many fathers and failure has none. Well, here's Failure's father. And it's us sitting here, me and Chris. And we're glad you're joining us again. Thanks for following us. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your comments. So today's a really special episode. And it's really special and personal to me. As many of you know, I probably wrongfully, and I'm sure most ball players are like, I can't believe he's even comparing himself to that. But compare my past life to what I feel like a professional athlete must have gone through. And as many of you know, I talk about it like I spent almost 15 years of my life with tunnel vision. Like I feel like, I was told, go here, do this. I spent 270 days a year on a plane. I was given what suit to put on. I was told where to go. I was told where to talk. I had my 3 dinners, athletes have to go to the gym at 5:15. I had to have 3 dinners and get drunk 3 times over, and still compose and close a deal. After that kind of came to a screeching halt, I woke up at 40 and I was like, who am I? What's my life? And I only had defined myself as Ryan, the movie guy and the TV guy and the sports editing guy, but I didn't know Ryan as a person. And it took failure for me to get there. To say like I literally didn't know how to pay a basic bill. I didn't even know who paid my bills. And I often say I kind of think I know what, a star athlete feels like, because I got to imagine, they're on the road, they're playing ball, it's all about playing ball. And then when that's over, I know what happens to people around me, at least. A lot of them disappear. The people who are supporting you and you think are your friends, a lot of them disappear. And so today, I actually can ask that question. And I'm really, really lucky that Chris is dear friends with one of the greatest of all time,
Yes,
Dwyane Wade. And I'm going to turn it over to Chris to introduce him, because I'm so excited to have him here. And I'm so excited that I actually get to hear the answer and see, again, we're not here to hear about how great he is, because we all know how great he is. Anybody who knows him, everywhere he goes, he's the greatest. But we're here to hear about the challenges, the struggles, the failures. And for me, this is going to be very personal. So I'm going to turn it over to Chris.
I'm so excited. Thank you, Ron. We're so excited to have my brother, Dwyane Wade. You guys know him, legendary basketball player, Hall of Famer, top 75, and the list goes on. Entrepreneur, father, husband. I mean, it goes on. And obviously, I'm around Dwyane all the time, so I see him when the cameras are not on. And I know how genuine he is, and I know the love that he brings for his people and how he takes care of everyone around him. And so, welcome, D. Thank you for coming on Failure.
Man, thank you,
my
guys.
brother.
Yeah, for sure.
Happy to have
I was
you.
wondering when I was going to get my invite. You know what I'm saying? Y'all reaching top 10s and everything, and I ain't get it. No, I appreciate
He told
it.
me, he's like, I don't want to invite that guy on. And we got Bob here, D. Wade's partner for many years and many ventures, and also I think who's witnessed behind the scenes firsthand.
Fly on the wall.
Fly on the wall,
That's the
which
fly
is
on the wall.
usually the people who have the best stories.
Yeah.
He does.
So
Ryan, so D, let's start with 59th and Perry. And what was that like, and what type of pivots you had to make in your life at that point, your age, and let's talk a little bit about that, 59th and Perry.
Yeah. First of all, before I answer that, to your point, Ryan, is when I retired, Bob and I did my second book together, and it was I titled it Dwyane, because no one calls me Dwyane. Everyone calls me Dwyane Wade. Everyone calls me D Wade, and normally when I hear that name, someone wants something from me. When I hear Dwyane, it's like somebody
that
knows
person
me.
knows me.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like someone who cares about me.
Yeah.
And so that was the whole thought of doing that was in this next phase of my life, I want people to get to know Dwyane, but I'm searching for him too. And so even though my book was a wrap up of my career, the name was for the future, was who I wanted to, who I'm willing to work to become, to show people that I am. I'm Dwyane. I'm not Dwyane Wade or D Wade. And so to your question is that like you woke up like, who is Ryan? I did the same thing. I'm like, okay, who am I without the Wade attached to it? Who am I without the jersey attached to it? I'm just Dwyane. And so I'm on the same journey.
How hard was that? Is it like, what were you feeling, and like what was going? I mean, for me, I was shocked at some of the people who I thought were my friends that weren't, and then I was shocked at some of the people who were my friends that I didn't think were, and I was, you know, just you know,
yeah, you might get your feelings hurt. You gonna get your feelings hurt on the journey. There's gonna be some people that you thought, you know. I tell my son this all the time, like you're gonna lose people you never thought you would.
Yep.
Right, and it's for many different reasons. But you will lose people along this journey of life, especially as you find you. No one, there ain't that many people who root for you to really, really be who you say, you know, who you're supposed to be, because sometimes when it happens, that means that they have to move out the way. No one wants to move out the way. They want to be there to be able to help, you know, go down this path with you or control you or whatever the thing is. And so sometimes when you step into who you are, a lot of people got to move, and that's not a comfortable thing for certain people. And so, yeah, that's the journey.
I was sitting with a good friend last night, actually, at dinner, and I don't go to many dinners. I didn't have the kids last night, but one of my new rules after I started finding myself was I'm home for dinner with the kids every night at 5:30, and I just don't do work dinners. And this person who's a really good friend, and I'll call it, was at the highest of the high. Like, people think I was at the highest of the high. This guy would, you know, I don't want to call him out, but literally the highest of the high. You don't get higher. And
you got dinner with Jesus? Hey, dinner with Jesus.
I mean, if you're talking about the movie business, he kind of was the Jesus of the movie business, yeah. But he literally said, he was like, I was shocked when after he's 80 now, and his career lasted, you know, all the way till a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And the things he did, the one thing about him is he was known to do everything for everyone. Like, he would help anybody his whole career. He was just a nice guy. And he's like, I was shocked at those people who just weren't around, the invites I didn't get, the parties that I used to go to every year for 25 years, and I was like the guy they wanted, and all of a sudden, he goes, I wouldn't have gone anyway.
Right.
But I didn't get the fucking invite. You know?
You know, we all want the invite. We might not want to show up, but we definitely want the invite.
And when he said that, I was like, you know, that's a really good way to say it. Like, I wouldn't have gone either. But did you go through all that too? Same shit?
Same shit. I mean, I think I did. I don't go through it as much. You know, when your life becomes bigger than you, then you don't go through that as much. When it's about you, and you know, you need that pat on the back, you need that praise through man. Sometimes we need it. No, you know, we need someone to text us and say something good. We need someone to tell us we smell good. Like, we need these compliments, and so that's a compliment to invite me somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And but you know, once you get over that, then you clear a path for yourself. And so I've tried to clear that path to myself, because that's something that will hold me back, because I have expectations of something or someone, and what comes with expectations, disappointment. So I try not to live my life with the disappointments from others, because life gonna give me enough of them just by living.
It's interesting. It's funny, because I look at it similar but opposite in a way, which is when I was finally, I call it like freed, right? I remember the moment that it happened. It was an actual moment, and I built off of that moment. Yeah. And but when I was finally freed, I realized it's not a feel good to get invited. They don't want me there. They wanted Ryan Kavanaugh, the studio head, who could do something for them there.
Yeah.
Right? And when you realize that they didn't invite you, and it gives you the ability to check those people off the list, and that person doesn't want Ryan, just like you said, you're Dwyane. They wanted Ryan Kavanaugh, the guy who could greenlight their movie or make their TV show or sign them a sports agency. But they don't want Ryan because I'm a nice guy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Great. Check off the list because thank you for doing me that favor and not inviting me.
Yeah, you ain't walking in there like, hey, Brian, you go that beer that you like. They don't know what beer you like. I'm just saying you like beer.
Right.
No,
They don't know those things.
No,
And
I
so
like red wine. But.
yeah, I think that's a part of the journey, right? Like I'm 42 years old, and even though in some aspects in life that's young, right? But when you've been on your own for living your life, creating your life since since I was nine years old, then at 42 feels
Feel
a lot older.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because this journey to sit here and have Chris say all those things he just said is damn near impossible.
Right.
From where I come from, and and multiple people like myself that has gotten success from where they come from, and so, but on that journey, long journey,
Fucking lonely.
and as we sit here, and to my left it says failure. As we talked about, you're going to experience this way more than you're going to experience the success part of life. Absolutely. On that journey. The success comes, you get these small wins, you may get a big win, but you get a lot of these.
You have to have, I always say you have to have at least 100 of these to get even the chance of one small one. And some people only get one small success, right? So like people like you in your career and me, someone in my career, we're lucky that we had a bunch of them. But what I always look at is the number of times I had to fail to get there. You have to incrementally fail more and more and more to hit those wins, right? And it's so where we really Chris and I we like connected like brothers like this, and I think we had to like stop talking on the podcast after like 5 hours. We're like, people aren't going on just for 5 hours. But when he said, athletes, he goes, you know what percentage the best athletes in the world make of their shots? The best ball players? I was like, what? He said about 30%.
33%.
And I'm like, so they fail 70% of the time. He's like, yeah. And I'm like athletes are the epitome of failure because they have to be willing to miss more than 2/3 of the time and forget that. And then he told me about next play speed. And I'm like, yeah, I love that.
You got to get to the next play quick. Yeah. And athletes have to fail in real time in front of people. There's no redo-overs. They have you can go to the replay center, but still that's less than a minute. So you have to get back on your horse. I was telling the young athletes today, I was like, I'm training you guys to fail over and over again because a guy missed 2 or 3 shots. And I was like, to be built for this, you have to you have to feel the fear.
Feel the fear and do it anyway. That's what we call it. Feel the fear and do it anyway.
Feel the fear of failing and do it anyway. And so the fear that he felt was he missed 2 because everybody was sitting there watching him. I said, you're going to have millions of people watching you. So you might as well feel the fear now and do it anyway. And he was like, man, where you get this stuff from? And I was just like, young fella, listen.
He's like, I got a direct line to the man up there. And he just puts it in my brain.
Even coming through that, the feeling of the fear, even when you're in the gym by yourself, speaking as an athlete, you get some athletes, and I was this way before as well, where you don't even want to get uncomfortable and do something outside of your comfort because of the fear of failure. And this is nobody even watching you.
Nobody.
This is you working on stuff. And
yourself.
Some people like stay. Yeah, you do not want to push yourself with no one watching you. You don't want to push yourself outside your comfort zone a lot.
Right.
And I had to get over that point where I'm realizing, okay, we got to try something new. I may miss the first 20 shots.
Yep.
But I need to get better at this, or whatever the case may be. And so think about failing when the lights are on in front of not only the 20,000 that's in the arena, but the millions in the world.
And the replay.
That's what.
And the replay.
That's what I'm getting around. I was telling you.
And not only failure as in losing, but when you're on stage, the way we're on stage, failure is in, the things you do in your personal life.
Yep.
Your failures, my failures, are out there for the world to comment on what I do in my personal life. Right? I don't know most people's personal lives.
Right.
I don't comment on most people's personal lives.
That's what I told Ryan.
But they get to comment on mine, right? And so your failures are out there in so many different ways, and it's not just from a winning and losing of a ball game. But it's how you act in moments, right? I may have a bad moment where I may say something wrong in a presser because we just lost the finals, and I don't know how to really respond to you asking me these dumbass questions.
Right. Yep. No, that's a fact.
And I'm going to fail in that moment possibly, right, in front of the entire world. And y'all going to dissect me and break it down and say I'm a bad person. But that's like for me, since I was 21 years old, I've been failing in front of the world. And, you learn from the failures, but you don't always learn each time. You can
No.
take 2 or 3 sometimes.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
I got that one. Don't do that no more. Now. Sit down. So
Isn't that's for me the funny part is I'm like, shit, I did it again.
Yeah.
This time I'm really not going to do that again.
trying to get better.
Trying to get back. We have this thing called mental endurance. And you take someone like Dwyane, right? And you look at his 16-year career and him experiencing 3 championships. And you talk about failing in public over and over again. Out of 16 years, 3 championships. What's your mental endurance like?
Everyday challenge. I mean, even today, like going through my entire life, I've been in 5 finals. I've been in gold medal games. I've been in the most pressure-packed situations you can ever be in sport and in life. And still, it's a challenge every day to focus on my mental endurance, my mental stability. Like even in yoga today.
This morning,
bro. First 15 minutes, my mind went pew, and I had to work hard to bring my mind back because I know we got 75 minutes in
75
here,
minutes.
and I can't walk out the door.
Yeah.
And so
we've been there
working
before
on
too.
Right, we've been there. Well, we want to walk out. And so every day you have to find a way to work on your mental endurance, your mental stability, which allows you to have a mental edge, right? Like when I played sport. My whole goal was I got to have a mental edge because talent is talent. Like, okay, we're talented. You're this, I'm that. But what is my edge? And so I had to have a mental edge. Conditioning wasn't my edge. I wasn't like Steph where I could just run around all day. That just wasn't my thing. But this was my thing. And so having a mental edge, but it's the mental endurance. It's the mental
endurance.
It's a process. And the athletes look, and everybody think it's just the physical when you see an athlete.
No, it's so mental. It's a mental game with yourself.
It's here up.
It's here up. So that's what I was going to go to the other day. We was having this conversation, and D said something, and I have this thing when I'm with D, is I'm always taking notes. Like he says some things that are beyond genius. Like and you only can catch it in moments. So I try to capture moments, and I go back to it, and he can write it. I save it for him, and he said something about from the heart up, and I'll let you explain from the heart up and from heart down. And how there were 2 different worlds.
Yeah, this is 2 different athletes. This is, you look at an athlete setting side by side, and they might have the same stats, same height, same width, whatever. But ultimately, this is the difference. From your heart up to your mind, it's 2 different athletes. And for me, this is where the greatest win. Yeah. It's from heart up, right? All this down here, this is all the physical. We all got something special down here. God gifted us with this, and we, trainers have helped us with this. Yeah. But this, from your heart up to your mind, those are going to be the greatest challenges that you experience as an athlete day in and day out. And we know this because we deal with young athletes. We deal with their minds, which we deal with their hearts, which we deal with, and so the ones that are strong here, the ones that are fucking tough here, these are the greatest of what they do. And so I was just telling Chris, I was like, it's 2 different athletes when you look at an athletic body. It's 1 and then it's 2. And everybody don't have 2.
That's a really interesting perspective because having, run the sports agency, I signed, 200 of the top players and talked to a lot of players. I've never heard that before. And basketball, baseball, football, that's such a but not just, what's interesting is it's not just for athletes. Mm-hmm. I think you could say the same in any field. So it's like, listen, if you, have a photographic memory, right? Even though physically it might be here, God gifted you with a photographic memory so you can go to med school and remember everything.
Facts.
But do you have it here and here to go be the best surgeon? Even though you might have the brain to remember everything, are you able to control your emotion? Are you able to control your feelings, right? Because that's the difference for all of us. A lot of smart people, right? And there's, as you said, a lot of people that have it from here to here. But it's almost like here being not the brain itself, but here being the mental, like almost with the part that we call the soul, almost, right? And the heart, right? Because that's, in the athletic world, it might be here to here. In the movie world, it might be whatever. Oh, okay, I can think creatively and I can write a great script. But do you have that soul and you have that heart?
Yeah.
And I've never been able. That's like something I'm going to bring forward into all of it. Because I'm like, what? You blew me away when you say that.
Thank you. I mean, it's so much work. Sorry,
Yeah.
go
I
ahead.
have a question. Like, how do you teach that? How do you teach the ability to how do you teach not to quit? Because when you start, when we all start from babies, you're gonna quit. You're gonna be tired of doing this, tired of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
How do you teach that to that? Like you, Chris, you teach it to the young fellas. You've been playing for so long. You've had many failures, but how do you teach that to yourself and to try to teach that to others? How to get
So,
past that?
I think it goes back to the mental endurance, right? So as you keep putting one foot in front of the other, and
so we say on it, we just
just
put one foot in front of the other. That's our
and
thing is feel the fear and do it anyway.
yep.
And keep just
Keep
put one foot in
putting
front of the
one
other.
foot in front of the other, and you will build the resilience that you need. And I'll let D give it a different perspective, but I was just talking about that this morning. Today is the middle of the week. It's one of the hardest workouts you're going to face, and I'm looking at them face to face. Today is you versus you. Today, we got to get that endurance. And the way you do it is just keep stacking them, and I call it habit stacking. And it just takes a long time to build because at some point, the real you going to show up. Your representative is going to lead. So one of the young guys kicked something over there. Come here, young fella. Don't do that again. Oh, I didn't mean that. The real you will show up at the wrong time. And it's going to cost you.
Oof.
Well, that's so what's really interesting is for me I think there's two pieces to that, right? So I talk about this a lot here. I grew up with anxiety disease. They didn't know what it was. I was 12 years old. And anxiety wasn't a thing. So like I got sent to a couple different doctors, and they like, we don't know what's wrong with it. And eventually they diagnosed me with extreme anxiety disease. And that actually shockingly prepared me for life, because even though I feel more anxiety than most people, what I had to go through to just become a normal kid and go through the normal workings was put one foot in front of the other just to go to school.
Yeah.
To go play. I was a varsity tennis player just to play tennis. Everything was harder, like just even getting in the car and going there. And that prepared me. So now everything, to me, getting in the car and driving here is as big of a challenge as like, I'm going to go get on stage in front of 20,000 people. It feels no different to me, which is, it's just as much putting one foot in front of the other. So I got, in some ways, it was a blessing because I had to learn to do it all the time. And, and then there's when you get to be top of the world, when you're sitting on that, they say it's very alone at the top, right? And I don't know, I'd love to hear your perspective on this, but the hardest part about that is you're so scared to fail, not because you're scared to fail, because you failed a lot to get there, but it's in the public eye. Everybody's waiting for you to fail. They're predicting it. They're talking about it, and it's like, listen, we're all human, right? I don't care if you're famous, you're a big businessman, you're a great athlete. We're all just human, and we're going to make mistakes, and we're going to say stupid shit. Like, I want to meet someone who literally can say to me, I've never said anything stupid, right? Like, or that I wanted to take back.
Yeah.
And so what happens is, like, I mean, I don't know, I've done it in interviews, I've done it in, in business, where you're like, you just say something, you're like, ah, fuck, I wish I didn't say that, or I wish I didn't do that. But like, I did. I'm human. Like, what can I say, right? Like you said, you did it at a press conference, and it's like those moments then get dissected and torn apart, and your mistakes, it's like they expect you to be superhuman. You can't make a mistake. And that's a different piece, which is how do you get through that? And the only thing, that's the part that there's very few people that can actually teach you that, because they have to have lived it. And I wish I had someone when I was up there to tell me, here's how to do this, here's how to handle this, because you are alone up there. You have all these people,
Yeah.
but it's all on you. All the pressure is on you.
It's funny, we all say that too, but it's like, would you really listen though? Like, if you had to, I always say that, man, I wish somebody, if you did have somebody to tell you at certain junctures of your life, would you actually listen? Because like right now we're telling, our younger, our young, princes certain things, and they're not really listening to it. Like one day they're going to be like, I wish I had somebody. No, you did have somebody.
Yeah.
we actually was right here.
It's really funny.
You won't listen.
What's really funny is my parents who were in town, they're always like, oh, we told you. Right? I was like, you did?
Yeah, but you ain't, you can't even. What I love about it is we all have different answers to it. And so let me give you my answer, my way, how I think of it. To be a little different is, I think a lot of times, and I said this before, is we all are conditioned to be afraid of failure, right? Like all of us are afraid of failure. But what I realized in my journey is failure is not the only thing to be afraid of. Actually, success is something to be afraid of. And just a small example, and I talk about this with Zaire all the time, but I've dealt with it myself. But just a small example, just even being in yoga class. If I do a certain move that I've never done before and I push through and I actually do this move, now it's the expectations for me to do this move again. So I can't bullshit you no more because you've seen that I can do this move. So now the one that, when we stand up, we grab our shit and I
And you go all the way out like that.
now
I see.
every time I got to do that, even when
do
my
it.
hip is a little on my back because y'all already know I can do that.
I know you can.
So if I'm just standing there holding like this, you're gonna be like, he bullshitting today.
Yep.
And so sometimes we're afraid of success because success is accountability. And accountability,
Good.
self-accountability is the hardest thing to do and to have in this world is self-accountability. And so I like to say that as well. And so that's the kind of my teachings is it's not just about the failures, it's about the successes.
You know what you said is so poignant, which is when I think back, like I started this studio. I came out and said I'm gonna start a new type of studio, and I got laughed at. There's the old saying: first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win, right? So I got laughed at. Like, you're gonna do what?
You got laughed at a lot, right? From my conversation.
It's like
and he's successful, everybody.
Yeah.
He's been laughed at a lot.
Yeah. So they were like, "Yeah, okay, good luck, kid. You started a new studio. I think I had $10 to my name," and I'm like, "No, I'm gonna rival the big boys." So then I had my first movie and it was successful. I was like, "Wow, he actually made this movie. It was really spectacular. That's so cool. What's next, right?" And then I made 2 movies, and then I made 8 movies. Then it was like, okay. Then I went and I created kind of a new way of financing movies, and brought big banks in, and that was like, wow. It was like nobody'd seen that. That was cool. And then it was like, well, that wasn't enough. Now I got to do TV. And then it was like, oh, well, that's not enough because, you'll actually laugh at this story. I'll explain you how not growing up as a huge sports fan, how I ended up owning the second largest sports agency that I started from scratch with 1 ball player with Amare. But what I realized was that as soon as you succeed, they expect you to do more.
Yes.
You always have to do more. And I was like, and then I believed in myself, I always had to do more or I'd fail. It's like, okay, that was yesterday's success. What's next? And it was like, I never took a moment in that whole period of time to be like, look what I fucking did. Ever. Right? Because it was always what's next. And they expected me to do more. They expected me to build more. It was like, you did $1 billion of revenue. Great. But now you got to make it more profitable. You did 30 movies last year. You got to beat that and do 35, whatever it is. Like, and I put that same expectation on myself. And I never took the time to sit back and be like, I mean, I'm in the 1% right now,
Right.
That's crazy.
And that, Julius Caesar used to have a guy follow him around, and he would he paid this guy to just follow him around saying, "Remember, thou art mortal." Literally, spent 24/7, had this guy following around just saying, "Remember, thou art mortal." And that was because when you're in a position where you're perceived as successful, whether it was, me at the studio head, your level, everybody's telling you yes. Everybody is like kind of kissing your ass, and you don't think you're wrong because no one wants to say no to you. But like, of course you're going to be wrong just as much as when you weren't successful, right? You didn't all of a sudden
got a little success now. You're being wrong.
Yeah, but he had this guy following around saying, "Remember that I'm mortal." So he was always reminded, as much as he was Julius Caesar and he was running the free world, literally running the free world, that he was just immortal and he needed to remind himself of that. And I kind of wish I had that guy following me around doing the same thing.
That's real foresight right there. He had that foresight to recognize that he was mortal. He had to be reminded of that. Like, that's
You need that mirror. You need a mirror.
Yeah, but that's impressive. Like, that's.
I got a question for you. As someone who's on the other side of other people's failure, right? Like, I have my experiences of my own failure. You on the other side with a camera. How do you process that? How do you process, first of all, being in that space with someone in a moment that they feel like a failure? And how do you see their failure from your lens, which is the other side of the camera?
It's funny. I actually almost feel like the guy. I almost feel like Julius Caesar's person.
Remember, thou art mortal.
Because I think at that moment, it's interesting because I capture content and I follow people around, you see them doing godlike things all the time. Like you seeing the praise, you seeing the pandemonium, and that's awesome. And I think seeing those, to be able to see the failures, remind me that they're human. One, and two, remind them that they're human because they see me seeing them as a human. Because I feel like a lot of times with those athletes, they are expected so much of all the time.
By the whole world.
By the world, exactly. And I think from my perspective, I don't come with that because I'm at that point. It's been washed off. All that's been kind of washed off, and it's like I might like you said, like a mirror.
Yeah,
At that point, I'm just kind of just sitting there like, all right, what's next? Like what we here? Like at that point, it's no. Come on, like it's weird because like the praise is gone. It's more like I'm here. Like I'm here to just be. We are here.
We here.
We are here.
Well, you're there, and you see Dwyane. You don't see D Wade.
Exactly. You see
From
see
day
the
one, though,
person.
you do that.
Like when you see the loss, when you see the pain, you see the brokenness. We here. We are here at that moment. And I think because when you see a lot of the praise and the pandemonium, almost like a gloss is there.
Right.
It is a gloss.
For sure.
Gloss that's kind of like
Someone
a
just
barrier.
waxed the car and made it look all pretty.
So
And
you have to have that kind of built-in barrier. It's almost like even subconsciously. And I think a person that sees everything, it's almost like the little
guy on your shoulder.
that
Yeah.
sees everything. Like I saw that too.
I think, Bob, that's the importance of building a winner circle.
Right.
It's the importance of having a brotherhood.
Yep.
People that you trust and that will call your ass out, but would also say, bro, you're on point.
Right.
It goes hand in hand. I think that's the big part of what you're talking about with that mirror.
Yeah.
Because we all need it. Every coach need a coach. Every mentor need a mentor.
Right.
And so we're always growing and learning. And when you stop learning, you're done.
Right.
You got to grow.
Because at that moment you feel like, because every one of you in this position is dealt with bull. Can you curse on this?
Oh yeah, we
yeah,
say
of course, of course.
So you can't
No, of
wait.
course, you
Let me
doing
just tell
it.
you, you can't say fuck, shit, bullshit, asshole,
Look what he did.
motherfucker, douchebag, cocksucker. You can't say any of those things on this show.
But you notice in the world, everyone is bullshitting you.
Right.
Like you deal with people bullshit
For sure.
all the time. Either you talk about it, or you call it out, or you don't call it out, but it's there. In my position, if I bring it there, if I'm here, you know whatever I'm saying is not bullshit.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm gonna be here tomorrow. I'm gonna be here tomorrow after that. I'm gonna be on the good up, I'm gonna be here on the down. So it's one of those things where you can be vulnerable too.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times, like I remember this, like even as I've seen so much with you, but if you have a chance to be normal. Like I tell some people all the times, a lot of our dopest conversations we've had not without a camera.
Yeah, you're just hanging out, right?
Just
It's
hang
just
down.
because you know the space is there for you.
Yep.
You know, like you know the space, and a lot of times when we see what we call our heroes in whatever division that they're in, they can't be normal. It's hard for them to be normal because I can't be vulnerable. I can't be this.
Yeah, it's hard to find those spaces where you can be
Right.
normal because it ain't even always just you, right? It's the people that are around you that can't be normal around you, which don't allow you to be normal.
Say that again.
You feel a sense of
It's on camera. I don't know what I just said. I have no idea.
It's the people around you that make you feel
Yeah,
not normal.
because they're not acting
It's
normal.
also, he wants to.
Why
He
you
wants.
treating me like that?
He wants
That
to
was-
write that down. Can
I did.
we make sure we
I
we
really-
transcribe that for us?
That's a
I'm
good
telling you,
one.
it's the people.
Transcription, don't worry. Don't
Send me that.
You think
No, 'cause
about
I-
it's the people who treat you a certain way, right?
No, this is
and then
good.
that creates.
Because I got a quote from D.
When you
I
said it, I was
wanna hear
like,
what everybody says.
so you know what that
I'll
does
take
is
notes.
it creates an expectation that we have to act a certain way. And I even today, and I think I'm the most real, like I just call it the way it is. You know, I didn't always, right? And I hit 40 and looking at my 1-year-old and realized I had this like moment where I changed my whole life. but I still sometimes find myself like I gotta do a certain thing or act a certain way because people expect me still to be that guy, and then I'm like, wait, no, I don't need to be that guy. I can come in sweats and a t-shirt. That's me. Like I don't need to. I have no person except my family and my friends that I actually need to do anything for, but I still find myself falling into these like moments of like,
yeah, for sure.
oh, what's that person? Oh, fuck, why do I care what they think? Like,
Yeah.
I care what my kids think. I care what my parents think. I care what my best friends think. But you know what's really interesting that Bob has is you not just being there as a friend 24/7, but as a person, as a photographer, and I have great respect for photographers. That's like my side hobby. You know, you have to have a certain eye, and you see things that other people don't see. The best photographers I've ever worked with, the best cinematographers and cameramen, they distinguish expressions that other people don't see, and they can pull feelings that others can't see, and that's part of what makes a great person behind the camera is that they can really capture things, which means they have to see them. So not just do you get the first front row seat, but you have a brain that is able to perceive these things that others can't, which is probably why, you kind of can sit back and ingest it and kind of enjoy it, because what most people see is just, oh, he's just having a conversation. You're looking at his eyes, you're looking at his, but you don't even realize you're doing it probably, but you're ingesting it.
That's a
Yeah,
great point, though. You're right. Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's funny. Yeah, that's a great point. I've never thought about it that way, but yeah, that's like a lot of times. That's why I send him pictures of things that he's doing, and he may not even remember him doing. Like I remember this. I'm going back to this picture. We were in on the beach, and remember Roger Mason. He grabbed your shoulder, and you had this face, and I had the camera, and I took a shot, and it happened split second. If you wasn't watching, you would have never saw it. But I caught it, and I showed the picture. I said, "You remember this picture?" And I remember it, and I was like, "Yo, I saw that moment." And it wasn't like Roger Mason touched his shoulder and he felt bad. It was just one of those things like, "Who is this touching me?" And that emotion,
You caught
emotion.
but you saw the expression,
I knew it was coming.
right?
It was one of those things I can anticipate.
But that's your artistic eye.
Yeah.
See, that is not most people. They look in there like, nice picture. Like you look and he probably doesn't have to say a word, and you probably know what he's feeling because you know him.
That's
but
called
also
chemistry.
Yeah.
That's called being, great athletes and athletes putting together. That's chemistry. You don't have to say a word. I already know.
Nothing at all.
You know what I mean? And so that's the same thing.
Right.
It's like having that feel and having that feeling. It's like just being able to be a good defender, right? Being able to block shots or get steals. You got to have that sense of body language, of eye. Like you got to look at everything and know, oh, this ball coming over here. For whatever reason, and so that is anticipation, right? I was great at anticipating because body language, eye movement, understanding the court is only so big, like all these things. It's like your mind is computing. How do I get this steal? It's not just I'm just lucky and got this steal. My mind is computing all these things at once.
Here to here.
Yeah.
So Ryan, let's take a trip in D brain. So like on the court, you're talking about in seconds. It's 24 seconds in the shot clock. If you got a fast point guard and it gets past half court, you get 16 seconds. If you got a slow point guard, it's at 14 seconds.
Nowadays they getting 20. What?
No,
they getting 21, 22.
They getting about 18.
Yeah, they slowing down a little bit.
It just depends. It depends on your point guard and the pace, right? He can probably take, and D, you can correct me. He probably can see every play happening in full speed. With the clock, the ball in his hand, crunch time, everybody's watching the movie, and he's able to become king of that zone. And I want you to take him on that journey. We talked about this a lot, about how to become king of your zone, because that's a part of blocking out the failure.
Yeah.
You did it in the Dallas series, the win, those free throws, and you've done it in moments to where you've had the ball.
Yeah, when I have the ball in my hand.
And the world slows down for you.
Well, as we talked about earlier, and I think we all sitting in this room have a form of anxiety, right?
Right.
And so it's levels to it. But in that moment, like my whole thing is, and I've had to work on this, and this is a part of even now, is the breath work. I've had to work on the controlling of my heart rate, how to control my breathing, control my heart. This is in moments when the clock is ticking. I'm controlling my heart rate. I'm controlling my breath work, which is controlling my heart rate, which is bringing me down, right? Because if I allow my anxiety to take over, this moment becomes too damn big for me.
Yep.
Right.
And so I need to make sure that this moment is just another fucking moment, even though it may be a shot to win the game in the finals. Who knows? But at the same time, as I'm doing that, I'm taking pictures of this side of the court, this side of the court, this side of the court, what the coaches are doing, what my coaches are doing,
Yeah.
I'm taking pictures of everything in all these seconds. I got to see everything. My defender, which way is he trying to send me, whatever. I got to take all these pictures visually, and also I got to listen to cues. And so all this is happening in real time, and what you're looking at is an athlete standing with the ball.
Right.
But this is a part.
But you're
of
playing
the
chess.
Yeah, this is a part of it.
We're watching a board and we just think pieces are moving. You're actually playing chess.
Yeah.
And you're looking at every piece.
Looking at all and the pieces
In
that people don't
16
even know you
seconds,
looking at.
Or 12 seconds.
Yeah.
So does the world, I mean, I know it doesn't actually slow down, but do you feel like for you, does everything go into slow motion?
Everything goes in slow motion.
It's like a
So
movie.
crazy cool.
It's like a movie.
It
Yeah,
only
I'm like
movie.
trying to picture it as a movie maker.
it only happens that way, right? If you do your first movie and you don't know what you're doing, it's not going to happen that way in your first movie. But eventually, after you've done it so many times, now you know, here comes the moment where it had to slow down, whatever it is, right? You got that eye for it, you got that feel for it. So it only happens if you put yourself in that position over and over and over and over. It does, if you haven't, when you get in that moment, it's going to go like this.
Yeah.
You're going to get a shot off.
Fail so fast.
You're gonna fail. So it's gonna be like. But if you have been in that situation, now you got that ball. It could be 7 seconds left. That 7 seconds to you is like an hour, because you've already been in this situation. You know everything that is possible of this team, of this court.
You've played every outcome out.
You played it out.
Yeah, so do you know what the multiverse theory is? So in science, this is actually a prevalent theory in, I'll call it physics and quantum mechanics today, which it's crazy how fast we're now discovering things in physics. But one of the prominent theories out there is something called that we live in a multiverse. And what that means is that every decision, every single little path in life, whether you're looking left or right, happens and it branches off. And there's a different you in every one of those.
I agree.
And whether you take a
believe
step, and it keeps going. And it goes, so you know how we only see like less than 10% of the universe, but we know we can calculate it's out there. They call it dark matter. So the new theory, or one of the new theories I should say, is that it's filled with dark matter, which is a different dimension, which is a multiverse. It's the branch that we currently aren't in, but it is, and we're still tied to it, so we still feel it ourselves, like in all these branches. So when you're explaining how you're playing, I feel like you're playing out every multiverse probability, right? It's like every possible step. You could step this way, this way, this way, this way, and you're like taking the entire, I'll call it 180-degree vision in front of you, and you have to play out every single little thing in 12 seconds. And like, I mean, if you take quantum mechanics at its face and the multiverse theory, you actually did play out every single outcome and then decided which one to do after you played it.
Yeah.
And you got to feel the fear.
Well, I mean, 1,000%.
You got to feel the fear.
So that, you know, where that came from is that was when I was 14. There's one book did it come out about anxiety. One book. It was a doctor, and it was called "Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway." And that's where I was explaining
Feel the
this,
fear.
and we were talking about it, and Chris is like, and then he asked me, he's like, "How'd you get through it?" And then you said, "1 foot after another." I said, "I don't care if it's walking up on a stage or walking to the car. Just got to put 1 foot
right foot.
in front of the next one."
My son is his nephew. He's in China right now.
Yes.
Playing basketball, and that's it. He got to feel that fear.
You got to feel the
of
fear.
going, being away from everybody.
He just put 1 foot.
But for
By
him, it was
himself,
like,
too.
hey, you got to get to the plane.
Yep.
You got to get off the plane. You got to get to the hotel. You got to get to the game. Like you
don't even know how crazy
you
this
gotta
is.
take these steps,
The-
but you got to. That fear ain't
gotta
going
feel
nowhere.
it.
You got to feel the fear.
We talked about just getting up and doing it. Like you have to let go. So you have to let go and just go.
You got to push yourself out of bed in the morning.
Get in the car.
Do you know, so
Pull up to the office. Do it.
I had mornings. I had mornings like this. I don't even know where I put my phone, but like this. When I was like at the height of, there was this hostile takeover on my company, and they paid millions and millions of dollars to the press to attack me so that I couldn't raise the money, which I ended up doing, but to win in the Chapter 11 and get my company back because the hedge fund on it. And this is how I'd wake up every morning. Pull the covers down, and I'd be like, oh, fuck, what are they write now? Oh my God. Oh, I can't. I want to get out of bed. Just put it back. And then I'd be like, rip off the covers. Just get in the shower. Just got to get in the shower. Then it's like, now just put your clothes on. You know, like, and then I'd be like, oh, fuck. Okay. Now I got to deal with this. You know, like, but that feeling the fear, man, that's, and it's all different levels, you know. And I feel like, you know, for me, I could talk about it as press. For you, you could talk about it, you know, as being on the court and or an after game or saying something. But like for everyone, it's all the same. Like what I tell everyone is it's relative. Like, right? Like, yes, I might have been doing it in the press. They might be doing it sitting at home. For them, it could be as simple as like filling something out that they're scared to fill out, right? Or applying for a position, or, you know, they've always wanted to play saxophone or something, and they just don't. You just got to do it. You know, you just got to do it. You just got to pick it up, and you know, it's you got to feel the fear and do it anyway.
I got this quote I want to read, and Dwyane, I want you to think about it because this comes from Dwyane. He said, "When they exit, it's time for you to enter." You remember that quote? Mm-hmm. When they exit, it's time for you to enter. Do you remember what we were talking about?
I mean, I think that I don't remember what we were talking about, but that can be so many different.
We was talking about
so many different things.
When people endurance is gone, your teammates, when you're watching the people you're competing against, you can. He said he could see them exiting, and that's when he began to enter.
Yeah,
I want to share that because that's a part of failure. It's a part of like, and the experience, and for him to be that smart to be able to recognize. Oh, you tapped out. He about to quit. And for you to just keep rising. And when he made that, I just wrote it down. We was in Dubai, and he was like, when they're exiting, it's time to enter.
You know who lives in that world? Boxers. Every boxer I know that's a good boxer, that's their like life mantra. Because if you think about in boxing, right? I mean, yeah, sometimes they get lucky or whatever, but most of them, they kind of they're like you said, they're equal levels. They're the same weight. They're the same strength. They're equally as good.
Weigh in within the same weight. Yeah.
They got to make the weight, right? They're literally the same weight, you know, and they're probably have equally good coaches and equally as talented and the same size gloves and the whole nine yards, and yet someone has to outmaneuver the other, and you know it's here to here, right? And I would say in boxing, you know, obviously having now thrown a lot of fights, the difference between the winner and the loser usually is that they can see that person exited, even if it's just for a second. They grab the window and they pounce. And that's why, like in boxing, it's so dangerous to exit for 1 second because it only takes one hit, right? Yeah. But that's a really good one. When you said that, I was like, oh, that's actually because I've just seen it. They get a little tired. Their guard goes this way. It could be 2 inches, right? Yeah. Could be the wrong step. One punch, and it could change the whole thing. All of a sudden, you're dazed, and then they got you.
Yeah, well, that's you know, you got to find that edge, right? It's like, for me, that was an edge. I'm looking for that to find my edge, right? But it's also times where you meet somebody who they ain't exiting, and you like, oh, hello, Kobe Bryant. Nice to meet you. You ain't exiting at all. Matter of fact, you know what I mean? I got to check myself because So you meet those along your journey, right? It's like a man, like you know when another dude walk in the room, that's that guy too. Right. You know what I'm saying? When you in the room, you feel a dude walk in, they got that same swag. You be like, what up? What up? You feel it, right? It's that they call it a BDE. You feel that energy when they walk in. You're like, oh, he got it too. Yeah. And so when you on the court and you see somebody with it, but for the most part, it's a moment where everyone exits because there's only so far you have pushed yourself to, right? Athletes, it's a lot of great athletes, but some of them only push themselves so far. So if I know I pushed myself to my absolute limit and I push myself past that, then at some point I'm looking for you to exit because I know I got something in the reserve tank that you don't have.
3 things on that. One is, I feel like in any game, whether it's the game of movies, basketball, baseball, football, whatever it is, life, if you give everything you got in that gas tank and you didn't win the game, so to speak, or you didn't achieve the objective you thought you were achieving, you didn't fail. Because you took a lesson from it that's going to help you the next time. So you actually if you gave it your all and you really put it in, it's not failure. And that's the thing is, right, because you're going to take that and you're going to use it and build on it. That's one.
So we call it lessons, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The second thing is, could you just tell for our audience, what does BDE stand for?
Black dudes everywhere.
Right.
Okay. Number three.
He said, "You
Right,
tell
the
all
only
these."
way.
So, number three, we asked this of every guest, which is, do you remember your first big failure? And what was it, and how did you get out of it?
My personal first big failure. That's a great question.
Could be when you were 8. It could be when you're 18.
Yeah, I mean, I went right back to like 9. I was like, all right, where did I fail when I was young? My first big failure. How did I get out of it? That's a great question, man. Look, when you gotta look up in the sky, when you gotta look up like this, you know you're going back. You're like,
So here's the thing: we've had guests on here, especially the younger ones, who they'll be like, "Oh, like we had a big Bryce Hall. He's this big influencer. He's like one of the top." And he was like, "Oh, it was when I lost that boxing match. It was like 2 years ago. That was the first time he failed." He's like, "Yeah." Then an hour later, he's like, "You know, when I was in high school, I was the biggest like dork. I got beat up every day. I was picked on. I ate lunch in the bathroom." And he was like, but it took him an hour to admit that was like, it was that failing. The reason I asked that is usually when it comes out, it's the failing, the very first failure, that somehow leads to the success.
yeah, I know what mine. I mean, Bob and I just spoke about this on the wind down, and I was 17 years old. I was 17 years old. So this is a time where I'm really starting to focus on like, okay, basketball is gonna be my future. I'm about to put everything into it. And so I played AAU for the first time. This was going my junior year. I played AAU for the first time. I started doing these things. And so the first time I really felt failure was after, it was in the middle of the AAU season. I was on one of the best teams with Darius Miles, who was eventually being out of high school, the 3rd pick in the draft. We had a lot of like All-Americans players, right? But I was roughly top 3, 4 best players on the team, starting point guard of the team. And big Nike camp was coming up. And we were a Nike team. We were a big Nike team.
Yep.
And so, you know, automatically the best players go to Nike camp. Absolutely. And I'm like, here we go. This is my time. I'm about to go to Nike camp. I've been hearing about it my whole life. And I was telling Bob, I remember the moment where I was waiting on my coach to come and pick me up because he was going to pick me up and we were headed down. We was going to go to Nike camp. And he was like 2 hours late. And when he finally got there, I felt his body language. And I can visually go right back to where I was. I was at my girlfriend's house at the time, my kid's mother. And he came up and he told me that I didn't get invited to Nike camp. And it crushed me because I asked him who got invited to Nike camp from my team. And it was about 7 other dudes that got invited from my team to Nike camp. And just that moment right there for me again, like when I started feeling like I started feeling good about myself, it immediately put me back down that they don't want me, right? Type of mentality that I come from growing up in the inner city. Is like, they don't want us, they don't care about us, you know? And so I just felt like they didn't want me. And even though I thought I was pretty good and I should have made it, but I was telling Bob, I was like, from that moment, you can ask anybody, from that moment on, I've never been the same person or player. That moment,
always that moment.
That moment right there, I've never been the same player or person. I started kicking ass after that.
So that's what I like to hone in here on, because I always find that very first failure for successful people, it defines them. So what did you change? Do you remember mentally, physically? Do you just remember like what was the metamorphosis that you went through at that moment? And it probably didn't happen in 1 minute, but it probably set off a trickle of events in your head. And as you said, it was never the same. So I love for people to hear it from people like yourself who became so successful that you were not invited to this camp and you were better than all these other players, and yet you took that, and that's where that supercharged you. And how did that happen?
I mean, it's just, you know, you grow up with already a chip on your shoulder. And, you know, just like everything, man, success comes and success weakens you a little bit. Right. And so I started having a little success, and that hardness that I had that had made me notice and seen, I guess I got a little weakened with success. And so all that did is it just really hardened me back up again. Right. And that's the journey, right? The journey is when you do have success, how are you going to respond to the success? A lot of people respond where, oh, I'm good now.
Yeah.
And so for me at that moment, I think what it did to me is it just hardened me to understand through failure and success, I have to approach life. I have to approach things this way. It just is what it is. It's going to be fucking hard, right? Because you want it to be easy. And in the midst of trying to accomplish something, it's going to be hard. And so I was like, even if in this moment, it sucks. And even when I get that, when I get on that radar, I'm still going to have the same mentality. I'm not going to lose this because this hurts. Like that hurt me. And I ain't never felt that kind of hurt from, I ain't never felt that kind of hurt from nobody at 17 years old. And, and I was disappointed in so many people, and I was disappointed in myself because I allowed myself to feel like I was there with everybody else, and they put me right back in my position. I wasn't yet. And so I just realized in that moment, it just really helped me understand like the ebb and flow of life and really just stand as even keel as possible through it all. And that's kind of how I approach life. I'm one of the most even keeled people through all the trials and tribulations of life. And I deal with them all, but I stay even keeled through them all because I understand this roller coaster, man.
Yeah, that's
I
a
get it.
lesson.
So that's
a lesson though for parents.
it's a lesson for everyone.
Yeah, for everyone, but even for parents, because when you think about where he was at that time, there's a lot of parents that interrupt the failure or the success of the kid.
Great
So
point.
that's a great
That's
point.
a great point.
And so you have to, as parents, you have to watch them fail.
Yeah, that's hard.
It's so hard. How old are your kids again?
22
have
was my
to.
oldest, 5 was my youngest.
Nice. I got
So you
eight,
have
8 and
to-
3.
Yeah. You have to be, as a parent, and I'm speaking as a parent, you have to step back and let them experience that. Because what we're trying to
And we want to protect them, but we can't. We're hurting them.
He probably would not been where he is today if someone would have interrupted
Right.
that
Oh, it's
message.
okay. You're fine. Yep. You know what? And that's the thing I find about
You
failure.
gotta feel you gotta feel that.
You gotta feel
Well,
that.
You gotta
gotta
feel
What's
that.
interesting about the
That
lesson,
hurt.
You gotta feel that.
because I was so excited about this, and it's getting even more than I ever thought. But what you just said is so applicable everywhere because people experience a little success, and a lot of people experience a little success, right? And then they have a setback. 99% of people give up.
Yes.
And that's why I always ask, what was your first failure? Because part of like learning how to succeed is actually, as I said, I never stepped back and celebrated my success during the entire run. I never said, oh, I made it. Oh, like, look at what I did. I built a studio, or I made movies, or whatever. Because I was let down, same as you. I was like knocked down. You get knocked on your ass when you have a little success, and either you don't get back up and you leave the game, or you get up and you go, I don't have time to be cocky. I don't have time to celebrate myself because I'm always going to be looking over my shoulder, and that's part of the thing I think people have to remember. In whatever they're doing, you're going to get fucking knocked down. And, and you can get back up and you can be like, you know what, I'm going to keep doing it. And there'll be a time in life to celebrate it. And that's usually like, in your case now, you're retired from the game, but you're doing all kinds of, business endeavors and ventures. And that's somewhat of a, you're still building and growing, but it's a celebration of the last part of your life, now moving on to a new chapter, right?
Yeah.
But you can't celebrate until that time. And that's what people, I think, they expect. There's this day when they wake up and they're like, I made it. I guarantee you, Mark Zuckerberg hasn't done that. Right? Like he has not woken up yet and said, I made it, because he's still in his Facebook chapter.
Yeah.
Maybe when he leaves Facebook and turns it over, he'll make that. But one of the richest guys in the world, and Elon Musk, I feel like the dude was sleeping under his desk. Well, to make sure that Tesla could make its deliveries, he's the richest man in the world. Right? You've never heard him step back and say he made it. Like he's under his desk, like deliver cars.
Yeah.
And so it's such an important lesson of like, the most successful people in life don't look at themselves as successful yet.
Yeah.
Because you're always fighting for that next step.
Yeah. I think one of the things too, just as a metaphor, is when you fail, when you fall, think about it. When you fail and you fall, most of the time you get up, you want to wipe yourself off. Right? You want to pout, you want to feel a certain way about your scrapes. But normally when you fall, and you look at it as a race, you're behind. So you can't get back up and keep doing the same thing.
Ooh.
So in that moment of failure, whatever I was doing, I got to catch up. Right? When I fall and I fail and we racing, I got to run. I got to do even more to catch up back to you just to get back even.
To get back even.
So my work had to change. The hours I put in had to change.
You even put more into
I
it.
got to put, because I've now failed. I'm behind. I ain't going to Nike camp. I ain't going to get these scouts. I ain't going to get these offers. So now I got to work even harder just to catch back up to y'all. So when I say that to say, kids, as we do fail and understand failure is going to be a part of life, when you get back up from that failure, because you will get back up, you cannot get back up and do the same thing and go the same pace. You got to get up and you got to do more.
You got to do more.
You know what I mean?
So
They call that the invisible hand.
Yep.
So the invisible hand is there, and it's just like, keep going, just push. And that's when you talk to someone like Dwyane and you look and you start charting like, oh, that was a moment. Then you had another moment where he was in the Olympics, and being on the Olympic team, a lot of people could be really excited. They could be like, oh, I'm on the Olympic team. I'm good. My money good. We good. Instead, then you went through another moment right there that a lot of kids, they've seen on his Netflix show, by the way, USA Basketball. But they've seen that moment to where his number was called. And he had to stay ready. And that stay ready mentality is something that we all have to adapt. I call it the stay ready mentality.
But there's something else to that, though.
Go ahead and tap in.
It's funny because I was listening to, I was going to bring this up another time, but we here now.
We here.
We here now. And then go back to that Nike camp. A lot of people gotta understand, because I think, like you said, things separate you.
Yes.
Like from the humans and from people, we separate ourselves by certain moments. There's a moment where at one point they weren't sure they was going to take you on that team.
On the Olympic team.
On the Olympic team. And the guys came to come see, was like, yo, because you were just coming off an injury. And there was a moment where you had to either run at the same pace, get back up and run at the same pace, or go back to another level. And for me, I knew that wasn't your first failure, but I remember that moment where just watching, and I talked about it on numerous occasions, where it was a moment where you have to realize, am I good enough? Am I going to do what I'm going to need to do to be good enough?
Right.
Well, it was familiar. It was a familiar place.
Familiar place.
Yeah, it wasn't my first failure, but in that moment from 2006 being the Finals MVP, winning the championship, to 2008 having to try out to make the Olympic team. Here we go. Here we go. So I'm familiar in this place.
That's what I was going
when
with.
Jerry Colangelo came and watched me work out, because I had knee surgery and shoulder surgery the previous year at the same time, and so he came and watched me work out, and he was just like, he's not good enough to make this team. That hurt. Once again, my ego is punched.
Right.
Like I think I'm him. Yeah, I'm like,
you get hit again.
Yeah, and I know I'm coming back, but not good enough to make this team. 2006, I was the leading scorer on the team, of the world team.
Yes.
Right, and so I'm like, not good enough to make this team. So everybody know I had to try out twice to even make the Olympic team.
Wow.
2008.
Think about that.
Like top of the world, one of the best players in the league, and you had to try it.
I had to, I mean, we, first of all, and Kyrie just came on and said this, he come from an era where, and it was a lot because it was that era, we had to kind of work to get it back to a certain level. The Olympics had to gain its respect back, even in the States with the players, where they created this tryout thing, and we all competitive. And so now they've created this, so everyone had to try out, but I had to try out
twice.
Yeah, multiple times to do that. But to Chris' point, to fast forward to that moment of spending all that time to get ready for the Olympics, being told that I might not make it, then actually eventually getting on there to make it, then understanding okay, I got to come off the bench, I got to do this new role. But in the midst of that, staying ready for that moment. And I tell people all the time is my moment came in the gold medal game. that was the biggest moment that I had because I'm sitting on the bench and LeBron James and Kobe Bryant get 2 fouls apiece in the gold medal game in the first couple minutes of the game.
Shit.
And so I'm like, I've been training for this entire time.
Staying ready.
I've been staying ready, waiting for my number to be called because before that, I was coming off the bench.
Yeah.
We were doing our thing. It was great. Now I got to go out here and lead the charge.
Now you're alone.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, my turn. Now I get to go out here and actually show what I've been working for all this time when y'all didn't think I was going to make it and y'all said I wasn't going to make it. Now I'm going to show y'all that I'm about to help lead us to this gold medal. And that's exactly what we did. I went out there and helped lead us to that gold medal and led the team in scoring. But all that work was put in, all that, like even during the Olympics, I wasn't even I stopped playing cards with everybody. I went into this whole different mode, because it was serious for me. I wasn't there on no play. I had to get myself back. I had to earn my respect. And my time came at the last game in the gold medal game, and I performed.
That's how you approach.
And I fucking performed.
That's how you approach failure.
You know what that does? So I always say, I believe in God, and I believe I'll call it spiritual. And I always say, if you prepare yourself, if you basically open the door, you give yourself the tools, and then you just poke a hole to let that light in a little bit of it, then at the right moment, he'll give you that opportunity. He'll deliver it to you, right?
Yeah.
And then it's yours to win or lose, right?
Yeah,
but
ready for it.
And you never know when it's going to come, and you can't give up.
Never.
That's the point of it. Is you can't like you said, it was the last game of the end of the gold medal.
It's a gold medal
and
game.
your moment came, and you're probably sitting last fucking game, and I haven't had alone time.
Yeah, you want that moment.
And you got it,
But
and
you
that's
put
the
your
thing.
imprint on it.
It will happen for people.
Yeah.
Well,
It
this was
happens all the time, bro.
but people have to have faith.
Faith. You gotta have a mindset of endurance, and you have to be able to imagine all the failure he led up to those moments. That's what we always talk about.
We also
in between that, you only see the gold medal and you see the end.
Yeah. People only see the success because that's what they like. They like the Instagram moment. But I'll say it for me. It was when you wake up and you're like, I don't give a fuck what anybody else thinks. I'm doing this for me.
That's a great feeling.
That's a great.
And
That's a great feeling.
because when you got up to have that, you did that for you
Yeah.
to prove it to yourself. And when you have that, you can't lose because you're only doing it for yourself.
Yeah. When it's and when it and I said, when it becomes bigger than you, that's when it even feels. It's a whole different feeling. When you got to do it for yourself, it feels good here. But when you're doing something that feels bigger than you, right? Trying to win a championship is way bigger than you because it's you got to bring your best individual self, but you also too you got to focus on everybody else that's on this journey. And when you take yourself out of the moment and know that I've done everything I can to prepare, now let me help him, let me do all, then it becomes bigger than you. And now that feels even greater.
Yeah, because you're still doing it for you, but
Right.
you're leading a whole
Right.
team that you're kind of pulling together, and you is the collective you now,
No, that's a beautiful thing.
right?
To bring it back as we end this, your first question was 59
59
and prayer. And so what I would say about that 9-year-old, 8-year-old, 7-year-old, however old that kid was, when I think about him, what I think about is a quiet kid that analyzed life, analyzed people, analyzed everything around him, and realized that he didn't want any of it.
Exactly.
Realized that I didn't want any of what I saw. But I knew that whatever I was going to do, I knew it was going to have to be non-negotiable. The contract I signed with myself was going to have to be a lifetime contract. It was going to have to be non-negotiable for me to accomplish what I was going to accomplish. I couldn't negotiate with myself.
Wow.
And till this day, I'm about to tell you I'm coming to yoga, and that
you gonna
fucking
be there?
alarm go off at 5:30, and I ain't get no sleep last night. I can't negotiate with it. Even I don't want to get up. I got to push myself out that bed and I got to go because I've already said what I'm going to do. So at 9, when I said I was going to be I was going to be an NBA player and I wanted to be this, I wanted to be that. I knew to accomplish that, I could not negotiate with myself. I didn't know how to put it into words.
Right.
Right, but
At
you
that
knew
age.
what you were. In
But
your
I knew-
brain, you made a contract.
I made a
even though you didn't
contract
know it
with
was the word
myself. That
contract.
this is lifetime. Me and you, brother.
Yeah.
Mirror, mirror. This is mirror on the wall.
Yeah.
It's me and you.
I call it me, myself, and I.
Yeah.
And so we go back to selfish.
Yeah.
To accomplish the things, you have to be selfish.
See, I don't think it's selfish. What I think is selfish is when you grab other people around you and you're affecting them for your own kind of value. When it's looking inside and making a deal with yourself, it's discipline. It's it's realizing there's a power inside of you that you can control, and it's your decision to control it. But it's the opposite of selfish, because selfish is like, oh, I'm going to do things that are only for me, including hurt other people around me. But selfless and self-reliant, it means I'm going to rely on myself. I'm going to make a decision that I'm going to rely on myself, and I'm making it a deal with myself. I'd say it's the complete opposite of selfish.
Yeah. I mean, I think the brand of selfish is definitely what you just said. I think when you think about the example of put your mask on first, right? Yep. You got to focus on self first before you can care for your others. Even you love your son, you love your
If you're not
family.
Happy with yourself, though, you can't.
So if you're not, in that moment when something happens, when they say put your mask on first on the airplane, you want to go protect your family. You have to be selfish in that moment, or you can't protect your family. So my version of selfish, and I like I think you said
Selfless.
No, you said something. Reliance.
Yeah.
I love that word. Self-reliance is a beautiful way to explain it.
Self-disciplined.
Yeah. And so in the midst of that, like that's kind of how I look at it. Is like I got to put my mask on first. And in the midst of putting your mask on first, sometimes it's going to look, from other people's perspective, it's going to look selfish.
Yes.
Right?
That's a good way to say it. It might look selfish.
It might look selfish, but ultimately, if you don't put your mask on first, you can't help.
You got to take care. I'm a true believer. You have to take care of you first. You have to fill your own cup. And along the journey, whether people pick you up, they're around you, but if you don't take care of you first, you can't have a big impact on other people's life. Because that's why I wake up every morning is what can I do for other people? To serve, to be a very humble servant, right? But in order for me to do that, I got to get up at 4:45. I got to get up and do yoga. I got to meditate.
Well, you got to charge your phone.
I got to charge my phone. I got to charge.
You got to charge that battery.
He tells me every day, don't let your battery get to yellow.
You got to charge that battery.
Because Ryan won't tell you everybody's reaching for you. Everybody's reaching for my dude. And so I'm like, yo, wait a minute. If you don't put your phone on the charger at night the next day,
you're starting at that percentage.
Yeah, or it's dead.
Yeah, or it's dead. Whatever percentage your phone is on when you wake up. So you're like, damn, I ain't charging. Now you got 32% to go through the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And that's the metaphor for life. If you don't charge your own battery, you're gonna have 32% to go through, and nobody care.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares but you, and that's why you have to rely on yourself.
Yeah.
I was laying here yesterday. I had a meeting here, and then I was going to that other meeting with the friend, and I usually don't do, as I said, dinner or drinks, and I was fucking tired, and I finished my meeting. I didn't finish the meeting. There's two people in it, and they needed to finish it. I said, "Don't mind me, guys." I laid down on this couch.
Yes.
I closed my eyes and I meditated for 1 hour. Literally set my alarm, which is when this meeting ended. I need to leave for the next meeting. And had I not done that, I couldn't have made it through the day. But I literally just laid here while they did their meeting and just tuned it all out and just for 1 hour meditated.
It's called a mental timeout.
I've realized over that. It's how important that is. And when you said that to me the other day, when you're like, you need to take a mental timeout.
You need to take a mental timeout.
I was like, fuck, you're right.
It's okay for you to do this because remember the analogy that I use in sports. Yep. In sports, anytime the opposing team goes on a run, you'll see a coach run out on the court so fast.
Time out.
Yeah.
And we got to stop this. We got to stop the bleeding. We got to adjust.
Yeah.
We got to pivot.
Mental timeout.
And so what we haven't learned is the skill set in life of calling timeouts for ourselves.
Say that again.
So true.
It's so true. You could be sitting in your car. You need a 30
That's where it's not selfish. You might feel selfish that you're calling a mental timeout. It's that you're relying on yourself and you're reaching in, and it's that you're listening to yourself and you're giving yourself what you need. That's not selfish. That's learning to set your own, I'll call it yourself, to grow and flourish and accomplish. So I'm going to read, I usually summarize this, but I'm going to actually read this today.
Read the quote today?
So this is the quote that I live by and that kind of this whole thing was surrounded by, and it's my favorite quote in life, and I usually summarize it.
I think I know it verbatim.
It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, and who strives valiantly, who errs and comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, and who at best, in the end, the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that this place shall never, his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. We have the man in the arena right here.
Man in the arena.
That's the man
He's
in
the
the arena.
man in the arena.
Eric Spoelstra.
Because
Shout
anybody
out to
else,
Spo. He used to give us
shout
that.
out Spo. Yep.
Yeah, he used to give us that.
Anybody on the outside don't matter.
Yeah.
It's not the critic who
It's not
counts.
the
The
critic.
critical counts.
And that's what I got a lot of critics. You know what? I just laugh. I'm like,
I call them hecklers.
they're hecklers.
Yeah, I call them hecklers, and I'll say, you see how that turned out for everybody.
Yeah, right.
Y'all walk into a Hall of Fame career. You don't care about no heckler.
No, exactly.
Y'all just hecklers on the sideline.
Just
Yeah,
over here.
that's right.
You know what I mean?
They're
That's
on
it.
the sideline.
On the
That's
sideline.
the
They're
point
just
of that
heckling
quote.
you over there. They can't do what you do.
Right.
Yes.
So you know what they do?
That's why they over there.
They sit over there and they talk shit.
Yeah, they heckling
And
you.
they try to get other people to talk shit with them.
Yeah, so why are you focused on them?
You know, it's we didn't really have that, but they're just professional trolls. That's it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they some people tend to find a way to make a living. You know, they're writers or whatever, or they have a blog, or you know, and that's all they do. They make a living that on heckling people and on being trolls. And you know what? It always comes crashing and burning down.
My heckler in Charlotte he's famous now because
Purple shirt dude?
purple shirt guy.
Purple shirt guy.
He got a brand because I'm saying that's a brand.
Same,
that
I
everyone
have the
knows.
same one. I have
Sure.
a guy, Teddy Fresh, who built basically his entire brand on heckling me. He has like 7 million YouTube followers, and he's done 56 podcasts on me, and literally, like I don't know how many posts. His Instagram on his actual Instagram, you know, you have your bio.
Yeah.
It links to a page that he created called "Does Ryan Kavanaugh Look Like Harvey Weinstein?"
Oh,
He wants your life, bro.
Oh yeah,
He
Brother,
wants your
even
life.
his own followers. I started getting. I get hit up on Instagram a lot, and I had to block like all these because you know he like mobilized. They're all young kids, and I actually one of them was I got death threats. I actually called the police on one. It turned out they're all like 15-year-old kids in high school that just believe what he says. But literally, I started getting like more recently all these things saying, you know, it was kind of funny in the beginning. It's getting old. And I'm sorry I participated. I can't believe I listened to that guy. Like, you know, he's just literally a professional troll who makes money on trolling. 7 million followers got off this.
lot.
Yeah,
that's a lot, bro.
he sells T-shirts with my face. And,
He making money off it.
Tell him. You want your life.
you know,
He making money off it, but he secretly love you.
He secretly loves it.
Oh, he actually says, he always says now lately, you know, if he wanted to come on my podcast, I'd gladly break bread with him. I'm like,
Well, you keep giving him things to talk about. You keep having him be relevant.
Yeah.
He loves you. Keep
Yeah.
going. Keep doing
wants
amazing
to-
shit, right?
he's got 2 bellies.
Yeah. Keep going. Please keep being
I'm glad I
successful.
can help support his life.
You know, if you just fade away and you don't have nothing going on, he ain't got nothing to talk
I
about.
know. Who else,
to talk about, right.
who else is he going to have a website on and talk? What's he going to talk about on this show? Anyway, I can't tell you, like, this to me was so amazing to hear your story. And once again, I think what I take away, and I hope everybody takes away from it, is just like, this came, I mean, obviously you worked, and there was so much more to it than this, but that key moment in your life where you could have chosen to walk away and say, fuck this, or you could have turned it up and said, I'm going to get up and I'm going to try harder, because you failed, but you turned that into success, and that pinnacle moment defined your entire career. And then, you know, all this wisdom you have through, you know, failing over and over in front of the whole world, and yet, you know, you're the best in the world, and you still fail. The best in the world at failing.
I'm the best in the world at failing.
We're failing on our show. We didn't fail to fail.
Ain't fell for nothing.
Anyway,
call
thank
that
you,
rinse
man.
and repeat, baby. That's
thank
what
you
it's gonna
for
do.
Rinse and
on the show.
repeat.
Failure's gonna rinse and repeat.
Can't tell you how much this means
Thank
to
you,
us
bro.
being on.
Appreciate you.
You too,
Allowing
Bob.
us to get on this couch.
You having the photographer's view, that's
brother.
like a seat that the whole world should be able to get.
And Bob, Hey guys, it's been another great episode of Failure. Me and Ryan, we in the building. As you know, we got one of the best to ever do it, and we got Bob behind the camera, the fly on the wall. And if you haven't done so yet, make sure you subscribe to our channel today. Also, hit that little bell right there so that you can get all of our notifications when we post. And yeah, we want you trolls to drop your comments.
Yeah, we answer the
those
trolls, by the way.
comments.
Oh, you about to get some new ones with me?
Yeah.
We, no,
Yeah, I got-
we
yeah.
want.
Oh,
We
yeah, I
encourage
got
you.
a lot of different ones that come out.
We
Woodwork.
want.
Ryan do too.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We
I may have
encourage
licked
you.
my lips too much. They may be mad about
Yeah.
that.
We encourage that, but make sure you continue to follow us. And
And if any of you can figure it out, because I can't what BDE means, please post it.
we out. Peace.